So with Arcane Act 2 wrapping up and us kind of not knowing where Ekko is in the first place, I kind of want to explain why this makes sense and talk about his game lore and what's going to happen with our boy Savior. Let's go, let's talk about him.
My new pupil, Ekko. Ekko, my former pupil, Jace.
So Ekko was born with a genius level intelligence, and he actually was like making machines and inventions before he could even crawl. But when he was growing up, his parents, like a lot of people in Zaun, were working really hard and mostly in the mines to try to make the lives of themselves and others better. If you're not working in the mines, you're doing crime, and that's about all you get in Zaun. But they were doing this because they wanted a better life for him, and they didn't want to live in Zaun anymore. They were hopefully going to move somewhere else. But Ekko really loved Zaun. He really enjoyed living there, and he loved the people there. And more than that, beyond the flaws that Zaun has, he saw that there was a lot of potential to do good. Zaun was very good at persevering, and that was kind of what Ekko really liked about it. And that's what really motivated him to continue inventing and continue trying to help people. He ended up befriending a lot of like the orphans and runaways that existed in Zaun, because there's a lot of them. And together they became the Lost Children of Zaun, kind of terrorizing people, but not like in a bad way, just like they're kids, so that's what they're doing, because they were like running around markets, they were climbing on things they weren't supposed to, like they were just a bunch of kids. And that's different and the same in the way of his firelights in Arcane. Like it's still that like scrappy group of kids, but also it would be like growing up with Jinx and Vi and them, like that kind of like rambunctious like kind of upbringing still exists within the game. One night Ekko found a shard of a hex core, not a whole one, but just the shard of one, and he was so excited because there's always been tales of hex tech, but he was holding one, and that was really cool. Even if it wasn't a full one, it was a shard of one, and that was something that led him to start experimenting with it because he knew he could do something good with it. And as he was experimenting with it, Gem actually exploded, and with that he ended up using its temporal powers and making a paradox of himself. So he's essentially, in little like less timey-wimey terms, he's standing in a room with bunches of different versions of himself, and they're all just kind of staring at them at each other because they're like, "Why? When did this happen? How did this happen?" Bunch of Ekkos in a room because it's all the different timelines that could have happened being Ekko. And with all of these Ekkos, they all get together and they just kind of fix it. And then there's just the one Ekko, and that's kind of his first experience with time travel. You got the Loki girl on this. I've been talking about the TVA for the last 4 years or whatever. Definitely here to talk time travel all the time. Now he's time traveled. He ends up making a little device that'll help him control the time traveling, and on his birthday he actually takes it on a outing with his friends where they're all climbing on top of a really tall tower. But when that happens, one of his friends falls off, and instinctively he actually activated his invention and continuously over and over tried to save his friend from falling until he got it right, which he does, and he saves his friend. But to everybody around him, they just think that Ekko started moving before the guy had even fallen, because they were like, how did you know that he was gonna fall in order to go and save, like, he wasn't even falling yet, like, hello? He ends up telling them about the Zero Drive, which I believe is actually in Arcane. I think it's the thing that's strapped to him. So I'm excited to see that come out. But upon telling his friends this, they actually decided that they were just gonna keep putting themselves in danger so he would save them over and over and over again, which it's crazy, but it's also children, so it kind of makes sense. But it actually benefited the device because every time they did it, it got more and more stable, and it got to the point where the machine was stable, but it just depended on how many times Ekko's body could handle it. His invention and his time travel abilities has made him a person of interest to both Zaun and Piltover alike. But his only interest is to help save his friends and family and to better Zaun. Because his main dream is that one day Zaun will rise above Piltover, or at least be at the same level where they can actually like be the city of progress. You know, he wants to invent things and help better the people. Like, he really, really wants Zaun to prosper. Which sounds familiar. Sounds like Silco and Vander. He does see Jace and Victor as opposite sides of a very dangerous coin, and he does not want to be like them at all. So that is very, very interesting because he does not like either of them, which is not even just a like Zaun and Piltover thing. He just doesn't like them. So there is one case, because usually when he does his little time turning reversal time travel thing, they don't remember that he's done it. Whoever's around him sees whatever the finished product was. But there's one guy that he saved that does remember it. He was saving his friend from Dr. Mundo, and Dr. Mundo remembers that he actually rewind time to save his friend. We'll see if Arcane plays by those rules or not. And speaking of Arcane, it's kind of like, we've already seen that Jace has been kind of corrupted by the Void, and the Void will show you like all of reality, like every possible outcome of reality, and it's really overwhelming, and we've seen what happens to Jace. He is not okay. That man is going through it. A lot of creatures that Jace saw in like his visions from the Void look like a lot of the Void creatures from the game. So it's interesting to see that they're kind of like a machine, but also kind of have the motifs of the Void because they have like the extra little eyes, but not eyes, because it's where Victor's hand touched all of them. So it's interesting. I'm very interested to see where this Void thing goes. But with that, our boy Ekko is still in the Void with Heimerdinger. Either he got out and he's fine because of his ability to rewind time and stuff, or he's just working with time stuff while in there. But regardless, there's a pause in the explosion from Isha's weapon, and we know our boy can stop time and rewind it, so we're wondering if this guy is gonna stop time, because it's very likely. There's also some people who believe that he's going to stop Jinx from burning down the last drop, because that's been seen in the trailer, and that he would essentially just be the boy's savior, because he has the title. As far as we know he's saved a lot of the Firelights, but he has a lot of cutscenes in season 1 that had him like trying to save Jinx from Silco, and she calls him the boy savior, and like that was the backstory for it. But I do think he's actually going to become the boy savior and like really have a heavy hand in making sure everything's okay, because everything has kind of gone awful right now. I'm excited. Ekko's one of my favorites, and I love Ekko a lot, so I'm really excited to see him actually kind of use his time traveling stuff, because he had like his watch and like they had the bridge fight, but it didn't have like a whole lot of his like ability. So I'm excited. Hopefully that Act 3 will show how cool Ekko actually is. We're almost in Act 3, and then Arcane's gonna be over, and then we have other League of Legends stuff, but Arcane's gonna be over. Ha! I hope this helped a little bit in understanding our boy Ekko. If you like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below, and maybe leave a like and all that good stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Stay geeky.